Have you already let the people in? Copy. All right, perfect. Hey there. My name is Neal. There's a specific place where you're at. The specific place where you're at is Virtual Natural Balance Masterclass. And Virtual Natural Balance Masterclass is a opportunity specifically to do three things, or one of those three things. So the first thing is to practice connection. The second thing is to practice networking. And the third thing is to practice both the giving and the receiving of offers. These offers are your gift. They are your contribution that is God's intention for your life specifically. And because of this, these gifts show up uniquely to each individual. And they are in each individual, and how they show up is unique based on God's intention for that specific person. Now, I say my name is Neal. Neal's not who I am. Who am I? From the words of David Icke, I'm all that ever was, I'm all that is, and I'm all that ever will be. From the words of Ralph Smart, with Neal's flavor added to it, I'm a multi-dimensional, infinite spiritual being that's expressing through a human body. And so this infinite aspect of who I am is the part of the I amness that is in everything, and that everything is always available, and it's not even always available, it always is present. And the I am present, that presence that's in you is present right now, even if your ego is in the perception of the past or the future. There's an aspect of who I am that's literally right here, right now, and there's an aspect in you of I am that is present right here and right now. And the only thing that's keeping that from expressing and showing itself and putting itself out there to give itself, but also to receive itself. The only thing that's stopping that is the programming, is the ego, is the identity, is the my truth, is the perception, is the expectation, is the opinion. And it's these components together that create mud on the lens of the true self, creating an illusionary viewpoint, a picture of the identity or the ideal self. And just because that illusion's created and even lived out and experienced and perceived doesn't have it be the truth, or even well, definitely it's so just because it's experienced doesn't have it be the truth. And right now, like Neal's like trying to think of something to say. So when Neal tries to think of something to say, when that happens, it's because there either is something wanting to come through that Neal isn't speaking to, or there's an opportunity for a pause for something else to be expressed. And in addition, there's an opportunity to be present and then to create something from from a moment of being right here, right now, and then from being right here, right now, bringing something in. The something in this case being language, the something in this case being a way of being. I'll pause there. Welcome, David.
I feel welcomed. Today, I don't know if it's coming through much clearer today, but over the past few days, that sense of I am has been returning back to me in a way that is allowing me to, it's remember who I truly am, and the experience of standing where I presently stand in relation to the community or with respect to my life as a whole, it's very different than it was, in these past 3 months or however long I've been here, because it's allowing me to see, not just in faith, but actually see how I am not any one ego here. I am not any ego outside of here. I am not the ego that I was, and I am not even the consciousness that I previously was in possession of, which is precisely the point, I guess, that is being made, is in the realization that this essence of who we are is not our consciousness of this essence is not what we are in essence. I don't know if that's making sense.
Like, I'm with you.
Okay, yeah, it's our journey, throughout life and becoming more and more aware and conscious of who we are, is really a return, in essence, home to where we've always been. And a lot of paradoxes that we experience comes from the fact that a return would imply or suggest going back to something. And it's really, it's not back to the beginning, it's forward to the beginning. But then we also associate moving forward with quote unquote progress and growing in whatever way.
We have someone in the waiting room. Like, I want to hear what you're speaking to. Like,
I'll continue.
Amazing.
And
like moving forward in progress.
yes, and in so doing, in beginning to see ourselves in this movement forward and making progress and gaining whatever levels of consciousness, this is kind of more advanced, you can say, than most people that get stuck purely in their egoic identity and whatever programming. But there's also a trap of associating yourself with the process of unfolding, the process of growing, the process of, and therefore, when you actually get to the door, right, of heaven, you can say, or just when you've found your way, and you then, well, this was my experience, you kind of freak out in the sense that it's like you're losing this identity of, like, you know, all of this work and all of this expansion that you've been experiencing, and all of this development and gaining of higher perspective and realizations and transformations and, you know, all the rest of it. It's like, you know, through all of it, you realize you're not any one of those things that you previously perceived yourself to be and identified with, but you're also not that process. You are the essence of what underlies all of it. And that, in effect, is what you're returning to, which is just being ever present with that essence, and it's like being simultaneously an observer, but also the active catalyst for what fuels that essence in relationship with others. And so my experience over the past few days has been the realization, in a way, that everything that I in reality perceived as true, the truth of that reality was not true, in the sense that it wasn't unreal, but even the reality that was based in truth was not real. And I think that's what really messed me up, because even if you're identified with, even if your ego is the truest representation of reality, it could never be in reality, because you're not, there's nothing, it's not what the essence of that reality is. And so anyway, that's kind of the circle. And this realization is basically allowing me to, increasingly shed every possible identity, and allow the reception of that life essence to just be through me, without having to make anything of it other than what is.
Yeah, so there's a piece in there where you speak to, like, returning to where we came from. And it's like that's like a viewpoint in time. So, like, in eternity, like, there's isness. So we're cleaning the lens and becoming present to where we're already at. And then in time, that looks like an unfolding process. Yeah, that's what I got.
Well, the only thing about that is, because we exist in this mortal plane, in order to be as we truly are, in essence, we have, like, relative positioning around the absolute, the truth. And so we are in the way that we are mirrors, is to show our relative positioning away from where the truth of reality is actually in. And so in some ways that effectively is our purpose, which is to bring each other home. And while we can reach the point of completion within ourselves, we can never be fully or truly complete unless it's with the others that are here with us in that journey. And in some ways, that's the whole, you can only, I forgot exactly how it is, but like enter heaven 2 by 2 or whatever it is. And
Oh, wow, I'm seeing that so differently right now, just based on context of what you put to it.
yeah, yeah. I think, and that's because we aren't meant, while we can be whole and complete in and of ourselves, we cannot hold the complete paradigm, which is that of God, right? We cannot
We
individually.
have someone else in the waiting room. Please,
Yes,
like,
yes. I got you.
want to
Yeah.
hear it, like,
We individually cannot hold the entirety of the paradigm in which we can coexist. And so our need in some ways for others, not in a codependent way, but in an interdependent way, our need for others is to actually be able to sustain our essence by that virtue, by extending ourselves to each other to remain centered in the absolute immutable reference, which I guess, in the context of Christianity or perhaps humanity, is Jesus. That is what he is effectively a symbol of, but also a living sort of embodiment of what it is we're actually aiming for or here for, and not meant to be. We're not meant to be Jesus. We're meant to be one, like holding hands effectively with Jesus. That is the whole inception of Jesus as a real person or a character, or it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter. It's just the in the mortal plane, in this human existence, it's a focus we can all have in some tangible way that doesn't keep us stuck in, endless abstraction. So yeah, that's what I have that came through in the present.
all right. Welcome, welcome, Joseph. I see you're already unmuted.
Oh, I didn't even notice that. Hey, guys.
Hey, welcome, Lewis.
I'm walking around the hospital right now.
Wow. So I'm not gonna ask what you're doing in the hospital. What I'm
Visiting my
gonna,
mom.
all right, received.
She had a liver recently, so she's kind of trying to recover from that.
All right. So how to be here? How to be here is authentically as your true self. And if you have inspiration to share, you can raise your physical hand. You can raise your virtual hand. In addition, you can also press the unmute button and interrupt. I invite interruptions. This current space that we're in right now is a space of flow. So it's a space of, it's essentially a mastermind space. Hence the invitation for interruptions. When we're here in this flow, we're of a greater mind because of us coming together. And so thank you for being here. Those are some tips of sharing. And right now in this moment, I've went through a process today and yesterday. Really, it really started yesterday and has been like occurring today of overextending my capacity intentionally to see what my maximum capacity is, and then and then not showing up to an appointment specifically because of scheduling too much, and then how that's impacted me is like really multifaceted, and that isn't even the full extent of the process that I've been going through. And the main impact has been like this degree of humbling of like, you significant fucking dumbass, like just fucking sit down and be present and listen where you're at, like, and receive. Like, it's all right to express, but don't express because you need to express. Express because there's something that's being called to be shared, and then acknowledging that calling and tuning in and really asking myself, like, what would love have me do here? Like, what would love have me be here? What would love have me say here? And then listening, and then after I've listened and received, then taking an action. So I'll pause there.
So there was something I wanted to receive support in around the space, and I can already see and hear how the space is like God in the space has risen up to meet me. Yeah, I'll just share it. I was not open to going on medicine journeys until early this year, and had a lot of judgments and resistance to that, and the part that it seems to play for some people in spirituality. And I slowed down and I listened, and I was really freaking careful, because I was like, am I just doing this because it would be fun, or because I would like to, and because I've been avoiding this desire for so long? Or am I really doing this from a place of like being called? And so that was in April, and it was really nourishing and like synchronistic and healing. And like I did all this work with a psychedelic integration, like an intuition coach, to make sure I was operating from that space and not just from like flashy, cool, this would be interesting. And then I didn't experience anything in terms of journeys for a long time, like 3 or 4 months. Then I was invited into a community where it's like the central sacrament, and it's a lot of really successful, heart-centered entrepreneurs and facilitators and coaches, and at the center of it is someone who is as successful as I've ever wanted to be. He's like John, except after everything he says, he buffers it by saying, and what I say may matter not at all. Like, you can completely ignore whatever I'm saying. And that's not to make John wrong. It's just like I sense deep committed love from both of these people, just coming from different angles and different systems. And then in this one community, there's like a freedom to embrace and experience and enjoy having a body. Seems we were given bodies for a reason in that community. And like, it's okay to pursue goals that also add value to other people. It's okay to follow your purpose, even if it doesn't look like a specific village in Costa Rica. And so it's been so liberating to be in a community where that's available, just that context and that framework. But what has occurred for me lately is, okay, well, how can I make sure that I'm not making the same mistake in this community that I have made in the past in Earthwaking, where I was abdicating my sovereignty intellectually or physically or otherwise in order to get belonging. And so there's this other distinction, which I notice there's a lot of ego for sure in this other community. But there's a lot of healthy ego too, like people who actually believe that God has called them with a specific purpose, and it doesn't all look the same. It's not all like we're all going in this one specific direction. And yet there's this experience when we come together and we take this sacramental, this medicine of like being one body in a very visceral, deep, real way that reminds me a lot of the Remember experience. And so part of my concern has been like, Lewis, are you doing too much medicine? Do you really need that? Or just because it's on offer, should you say yes to it? And where my mind went Sunday was like, well, it's like a sacrament. You know, in the Catholic Church, they supposedly turn bread and wine into the blood and body of Jesus Christ, and then you eat that, and it's kind of this little play acting thing where you feel like you've done a thing when you really haven't. Or maybe you experience grace, or maybe you experience chi energy or prana. Whereas here, it's like, it's a real visceral, potent experience. And I thought to myself Sunday, I was like, I don't, and it kind of, it hits me in a similar way to like, of course I want the ecstasy and transformation in community that's available in the Remember experience. Of course I want to experience 2CB and the community that is leveraging it to go into deeper love from a non-dogmatic perspective. And so I bring this to you, Neal, because I know you've experimented with and even been at the source of supporting people through the use of medicines. And also because I have trusted and experienced you to be a non-judgmental and non-dogmatic space for people being wherever they're at on their spiritual journey without them having to land in level 5 because it's better and level 4 is worse, or level 3 is bad and wrong because the kingdom of God is not fully expressed there. And so that's kind of where I'm at, and I'd love to hear whatever maybe comes through for you as I shared. Thanks for listening, y'all.
You're welcome. So right now, like I'm in an experience of like peace in my being. Like I'm really peaceful right now. What I received from your share, I've got a question basically. The question is, what's your commitment in specifically with the use of sacrament?
My commitment is to heal, transform, thrive, and enjoy being alive in community. Yeah. And what I hear, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, go for it.
What I hear underneath the question is like, Because I came with sort of the question of like, am I doing this too much, or is this? And what I feel the invitation towards is like, all right, so what are you actually committed to? And is this serving what you're committed to? And yeah, it is. And it does seem to serve my commitment. So long as I stay awake at the wheel of my ego, because that's another thing, another distinction between the two communities that's weird and new for me to explore. There, pleasure is good for itself. Like, oh, pleasure is nice and actually healing and nourishing, like a tonic or an elixir for the nervous system. And that if something causes you to feel euphoria in a holistic way that doesn't mess you up, then it is as good as eating a delicious food grown in the garden would be at earthwaking. And so there's a desire to enjoy ecstasy for itself, not the drug, but like the experience. And there's a felt sense just viscerally that they're different flavors of ecstasy. The kind of experience we get after a major breakthrough in the middle of the remember experience, where we're all like, wow, we all opened our heart and we feel this person in front of us, and now we're one because of the journey that we've had, or we're remembering how we're one. Like I experienced that here too. And I think that in itself is a good, but it's new for me to be accessing it through medicine, and also with such a quantitative frequency. So it does seem to be serving my commitment insofar as that is what I'm committed to experiencing and enjoying. Does that make sense? Does that land?
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Do you got something? I was feeling you.
Yeah, there's a lot there. Well, if I were to just start at a level that I'm sure you've explored intellectually, philosophically, and have otherwise reflected on, but I think it's worth putting out there. When it comes to pleasure and ecstasy and any that kind of an experience which is induced in some ways exogenously, how do you distinguish between that experience being something that has meaningfully been reached within your own consciousness, as in a point that you've realized and have access to within yourself that can be, actually used in the service of what it is that you're describing and your commitment, versus just hedonism, a sophisticated form of hedonism?
Yes. So fundamentally, it's the pathway taken. Like, we're all nature. One of the jokes that gets made is in they call it the Ledgeway Sangha. It's based in Buddhism and Taoism. And one of the jokes is that 2CB is the only modern American indigenous medicine.
I get it.
Yeah. So there's like for me, there's a felt sense of like, which channel do I choose to use to arrive on location in the visceral experience of who I am, like breakthrough processes, 2CB, psilocybin, what I was taught in 45 Days to Awakening towards activating fundamental well-being in the brain. And like, fundamentally, I don't judge hedonism as intrinsically bad, dangerous. Well, okay, I discern that it could be dangerous if someone fell asleep at the wheel, but the fact that I'm asking the question means I don't think I have. Yeah.
would you acknowledge that hedonism is essentially just the flip side of nihilism?
That's an interesting question that feels like a trap.
Well,
Um,
so yeah, there is that is my implication. But I
it's
wonder
like
if
Admiral
you.
Akbar. It's a trap. I mean, can you distinguish that a little more, man? I'm
Sure,
interested.
yeah.
I'm open.
Well, nihilism, in effect, if acted out, it's coming from a sense of meaninglessness, a feeling that, there's nothing matters, right? And it's usually like a negative form of acting out and comes from there's like a dysphoric state in relation to it. And so hedonism is at the core the same in essence, but it's the flip side as far as it's the euphoric, it's the, experientially positive side of it. But it kind of misses both are missing the mark, which is the actual center point through which meaning can be derived, and you can lead a meaningful existence and coexist with others in community through that center, as opposed to, I mean, it's effectively a hack,
Hmm.
because it may help. I'm not saying that it can't help anybody in any way, but if it's the focus, right? If it in and of itself is the focus, I see that as being problematic, as opposed to being assisting, somebody in an already meaningful context where the focus is that center, in a more existential, sense.
I see what you're pointing to as a possibility and as a useful place for distinguishing. And I also see that level 3 is actually nihilistic intrinsically. Like if someone is fully taking seriously the fact that there is no blueprint, there is no point, there is no purpose, there is no need to worry about having one, and we're just here, whole, perfect, and complete in every moment, enjoying the journey
Yeah,
of walking around the jungle,
I agree. Yeah.
then at that point, the evisceration of meaning, like the experience of complete meaninglessness, is actually identical to the experience of completely meaningful, because they're both equally meaningless. So,
Hallelujah.
so yeah, I mean, okay,
Well,
that's great. So what that means is I can choose anything, knowing that I'm choosing it, just knowing and trusting that it's a step on the journey. And so I spend time in level 3, and yet I'll say I'm alive with level 3. I practice level 4, and level 5 I resist the fuck out of. That's just where I am. And me being honest about it is better than like people pleasing and just trying to say, okay, all hail Christ and the kingdom of God, and Taoism and Buddhism and Sikhism are all full of shit and worthless compared to this one thing that has a door, that if you find the door, then you'll be better than everybody else because you're doing what God actually intends. I mean, like, and that's a whole other conversation, but there's a commitment in both communities that I engage in to this level 4, and to leveraging the medicine is specifically chosen because of its heart opening capacities for
what
congealing
is
a
this
community.
medicine just that we're talking about?
Yeah, so it's called two actually no, it's just 2CB. I was going to try to give you the chemical name, but that's like,
What
I
is it the
guess, ego.
closest thing to?
Mescaline. Yeah, it's a synthetic analog of mescaline. And so it deals with the phenethylamine receptors and the dopamine neurotransmitter. And what I consistently experience with it is sovereignty, like a clear definition and a validation and an affirmation of my choice and my capacity and my boundaries, while also a kind of gentle opening and invitation to sharing in the human experience with others. and like reveling in the fact that we have bodies and we have free will and this capacity for like painting the picture of our engagement with other people. And inside the community, I will also distinguish, hello, howdy. I distinguish a commitment to level 4, because we always start the ceremony with like every person gets a check-in and every person's perspective is as valid as everyone else's.
Yeah. That's a big thing that I do value and think is a critical part of actually being interconnected. It's like I visualize it as, a Venn diagram, right? And every circle is a perspective, and through every perspective, there's a common, thread or center that we move closer to, all those circles. Yeah.
And there's a richness to that. There's like a beauty to, we share a universe to some extent, but I don't see it the same way as you. And if I try to put your perspective or personal experience of God on a pedestal, even if a category 5 hurricane moved around you, okay, well, that's how God showed up around in your life. It's not necessarily how God is showing up in mine or must. And just because you had an experience does not dictate to me what my experience of God must be, or what my ethical response to God must be. And I mean, it's interesting because in this community, there's also people who are like, yeah, we're building self-sustainable eco-villages. And I'm like, oh, you can do that in a way that isn't centered on Christ and actually have them be successful? Like, what? I couldn't believe it. And so, yeah, it's my mind gets to remain free at the same time as I'm doing my best not to fall into judgment on either community, but to respect my capacity for discernment and to allow my heart and inspiration to be the invitation of how I choose. So, and there's a commitment to contribution in both spaces too. It just looks different. So, thank you.
You're welcome. Is there more you want to share?
Thank you. You can see me like I was wrestling with this story of like, I'm talking too much. Maybe I said too much. Did I talk for too long?
Yeah, that's perfect. Like that's yes to all of that.
Wait, yes, as in you.
Yes, not in the sense that it's
okay.
it's accurate what you're saying, but yes to that you're speaking to what's going on inside of you.
Yeah. I mean, what I kept praying for when I was at the village, I was like, what would it be like? What would it be like? This is what I choose to manifest. Instead of a round table of a motley crew of people who are at various levels, financially and existentially, sort of turning to John and Kirk and saying, help me guide myself to light and love and truth. Like my experience of this community is what I was like, what would it be like if everybody had already achieved full stature and integration of their ego, not as their identity, but as an instrument for the expression of love, which John and Kirk have. Kirk made fucking fun of me last night. He poked at me. And I don't take that personally. I see that as a feature of his ego in service to what he's committed to, love. Ego is the thing that distinguishes me and my behavior from yours. It's not going away. And just because we tell everybody, like, you can't perceive the truth from your ego, doesn't mean you won't continue to walk around forests using your ego to not run into trees. And John has this cool thing where he's able to sit down and become a channel and things flow through. And that's great. And Kirk too, and so many people in Earthwaking. And I love and honor and respect that. And they're not the only perfect, ultimate, dogmatic, absolute prophets. We all have that power. and so and it doesn't necessarily need to look like a competition or anything. And so I was like, all right, what if instead of, people latching on to and pedestalizing somebody else as an expression of what power and love looks like in the world and saying, I'm going to follow that because it feels right. Like, why not find God in you, exercise and actualize your full potential as God to create and serve the world? And then from there, turn around and say, hey, I don't choose to be alone on this journey. Let's gather in a community and see what we can make happen together. And I mean, I did do my best to try to contribute this to Earth Waking with the Money Magic Alignment thing and, you know, teaching in the Doing Well While Doing Good challenge. Because I see every single person who sits at that table as capable of incredible financial accomplishment and entrepreneurial accomplishment. And at that level, like, what else could we make happen on this planet? So that's what else I had to.
I fully receive, and I really see this vision that you're painting, which is a vision of going inside, like, hey, connecting with God inside, and then expressing from that place. And in your share, there's this abundance of perspectives. So there's all these perspectives, and with the abundance of perspectives, it's so, with the abundance of anything, it's easy to get ungrounded and unfocused and get lost in the abundance of perspective. This is where discernment comes in, where discernment is coming through this body, and it's coming from my commitment to listen and speak from love, and it's coming from a commitment of being authentic as the true self. And so with those, the discernment comes in of what perspective to take on to fulfill my commitment, because ultimately, and then there's the truth, which transcends perspective. So the truth I see is level 5, which is the transcendent of perspective. But before that, we are in the perspective, moving in the direction of the truth, the transcendent of the perspective. And so with what I've been like navigating today, there's this thing come up of like, all right, so you have this abundance of perspective, you use discernment, I now make a decision, and now some people are like, oh wow, that was a great decision, and then some people are like, why, what the fuck, like, why'd you make that decision? And there's both. And what there is with both of those receptions of the decision I've made, what is common ground is the decision itself. And being decisive is how to be focused in an abundance of perspective environments. And the decision is coming from the commitment, and the commitment, it might be a commitment that's egoic at first, but the only way you're going to find out is to write it out. And I think egoic commitment does come first, and we move through that and grow into commitment with God, commitment with love, commitment to your higher self, commitment to source. Use whatever words you want to call it, but I think we grow into that kind of a commitment. And that's when we then take on the perspective of the truth, which is the transcendent of the abundance of all these other perspectives. And then we can actually play around with those perspectives, take them on, like live in a perspective for a day, a week, a month, a year, but not get lost in it. Being grounded in commitment, being grounded in the truth, being decisive, and being focused.
I feel nourished, supported, seen, and respected in my sovereignty by that share, and also gently invited. And I mean, it's the same tone with which I conduct my one-on-one conversations with John. Like, it's very collegiate and respectful, and I'm like, it's really inviting. It's like, man, I really want to come back to this masterclass. Man, I really want to stay in this conversation. because maybe there's something for me to discover, and there's no rush for me to have to discover it now, even if I end up burning or harming myself along the way by not immediately adopting what might be a more complete or grounded or ultimate perspective. Do you hear that?
I do hear this, yes, and I receive it.
Cool.
There's
Thank you.
there's a part to this regarding conversation, which I think is not fully appreciated in the journey up the levels.
You got 2 minutes.
Okay. And in conversation, it's literally in the word is converse, which is conversely, and the ability to speak conversely to whatever being said is a part of what actually makes us feel connected in spite of whatever that, everyone, that's the issue with dogma. Everybody believing the same thing or adopting, even if it's the highest perspective, without actually connecting over the difference in perspectives, not just like honoring the fact that it's just a permanent, well, I agree to disagree because this is the perspective held by the collective ego. If you can't have individual conversations with each other based on some dogma that prevents it, and you can't have a conversation with the collective, meaning the body with the head and the head with the body, same as like for us, our mind and body, they communicate with each other. It's the same thing in the collective. If you can't speak conversely, then there's always going to be a feeling of separation that's going to be there. So that's the relevance of the having difference of perspectives and conversing with each other about them.
Boom.
Yeah.
So right now, we've just exited a space of flow, and we've just entered a space of structure. And in this space of structure, this is an opportunity to give an offer. This is an opportunity to receive an offer. So if you have an offer, I invite you to raise your hand. And I'm going to go ahead and start with sharing the physical in-person up-level ceremony. So what is the up-level ceremony and who's it for? Well, it's specifically for healers and event facilitators that are plateaued and you're looking to go to the next level. Like you're aware that this is where you're at. You're aware that there's more to where you're at, but you're not quite sure how to get from A to B. You're in this stasis, conscious that there's more. So this is for you, if that's you. And where this is at is in rural Costa Rica on Earthquake and Grace 2 property. And it's a 7-day event. And the start date is December 27th, 2024. The end date is January 2nd, 2025. It's nice if you can get here a day before the event starts. And this is a connection, clarity, and purpose ceremony. And in the first 5 days of this event, we're food fasting. And so no food, water fast, and included with this is 6 hours of meditation per day, with that meditation being in 2-hour windows with a light body movement in between each meditation. All of this in silence as a group. I have a maximum capacity of participants, which is 30 people. The minimum donation to secure your spot is $333. And you can donate more, but that's minimum donation. And then you're also responsible for like your plane ticket and getting yourself here. And then after these 5 days, on day number 6, which is January 1st of 2025, we end this fast with organic, fresh fruits, vegetables like kale, papayas, mango, watermelon, fresh foods to fill a now clean vessel. During this time, you literally purge, you shit, you clean out what's inside of you, physically, mentally, and spiritually. And with this reintroduction of organic, fresh food, it's the reintroduction of organic, fresh medicine. The food is the medicine. Coming out of this up-level ceremony fully radiant and at your optimum in what year? 2025. So you're invited. All the information I'm going to put in the description of this video. And then if you are called to participate, make that donation, and then email me that you made the donation. Email me natural balance, like the words natural balance, and then we'll have a conversation on your next steps. So that's my offer. Who would like to make an offer? Joseph, welcome.
Hi. So I actually just finished week 2 of the Spiritual Capitalist Mastermind. So I guess I can definitely practice my offer with y'all, and you can let me know what you think. Let's see. Okay, so are you tired of dragging yourself hopelessly along through life, slowly dying inside while your music is still inside you? If so, then come to the Make Me Want to Live Again Masterclass, where you will stop drowning in depression, anxiety, and procrastination and start living the life that you're meant to live. How's that sound?
I like it. I'm interested.
For my mastermind, I thought a good name for that would be the Lovers of Life Mastermind. And so that's what I got so far. So far, I've had one big investor, Noel. She invested $555 in bridge bucks in my class, so that was really encouraging. Um, if you want to be one of my first 12 people, along with her, to really, help me get this masterclass concept going and make it the best it can be. In exchange for that, I will give you lifetime VIP access to me. So like someday, when people are paying me like $50,000 to talk to me on the phone for like an hour, you can call me anytime and I'll answer, unless I'm in some really dire situation. So that's the big offer. On a smaller scale, if you want to, let's say if you're having issues with like time management and things like that, I've come up with some tools that I could definitely, be of service to other people with, because they've really helped me in the past. So if you need help with, getting your life organized, time management, that kind of thing, we can do, half an hour to an hour phone call, for a $55 minimum donation, and I can help you in that aspect.
Awesome. How do I sign up to your mastermind?
Well, it doesn't exist yet, but
Well, it does now.
yeah. Let's see. I will put my email in the chat here. And then the way that Noelle did it is she made the donation with Bridge Bucks. So let's see. I'll have to find my link for that, I guess, and put that
Can
here.
you just message me both of those links directly in Mighty Networks? And then what I'll do is I'll add them. If you can put them in the chat, great. And in addition, message me them on Mighty Networks, and then I'll put them in the description of this video on YouTube.
Okay. Mhm.
And is that complete for you, Joseph?
Yes.
Great. Lewis, are you feeling an offer?
I will. Yes. uh, have you ever wanted to multiply and maximize your impact and your income in service of giving your gifts to the world? Have you ever wanted a map and a compass for how to do that? Well, I have what's called the Wealth Dynamics Accelerator. It's a 12-week mastermind and group coaching program every Saturday from 11 to 12:30, where I will be teaching you how to create wealth, abundance, prosperity, and real multiplying impact through paving a path and building a structure. It's like when you look at a roof, at the bottom of that roof, there are gutters that collect the water and then route them to a very specific place when there's a rainstorm. What I've discovered is that if you build the right structures out here in the world, wealth and abundance will flow to you, regardless of how you're feeling, regardless of what you're thinking, because success is structural, not personal. You don't have to fix yourself. You're not broken. All you have to do is take the right actions and build the right thing to free yourself to be able to make an even bigger impact. So if anybody's interested in this, I'll put my email in the chat. And the minimum donation for Earthwaking is $1,500. I firmly believe that this is a $3,000 program. The $1,500 is a special for you all. Let me know by Saturday, because I'm completing the cohort then. And yeah, if you have any questions, also feel free to email me. Thanks for asking, Neal.
You're welcome. I see your hand up, Joseph. Do you got a comment or a question?
No, I just forgot to put it down earlier. I'm typing right now.
All right.
Oh man, it erased everything I typed. I'm so mad.
Just send it send it to me directly, and then I'll make sure it's in here.
Okay.
So with that, we're 4 minutes past time and the illusion of time that this time of this class would typically end. I could judge the shit out of myself for that, or I can be okay with that. And I not only am okay with it, I actually absolutely freaking love it. I love you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being you. And with that, peace.
Love y'all. Thank you all.
Yeah.
All right.
Ciao.